The campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris launched the Fighting for Reproductive Freedom bus tour this week in Florida. It's where the state will consider a ballot measure to expand abortion access, and where former President Donald Trump is a voter. Harris supporters have accused him of flip-flopping on the proposed Florida amendment.
He has had more positions on reproductive rights than he's had wives.
Trump came out against the measure in an interview with Fox News, a day after telling NBC News that Florida's current 6-week ban was, quote, too short.
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. 6 is too short. It's just too short a period. And the 9 months is unacceptable. But for that reason, for the radicalization on the Democrat side, we're voting no.
Trump appointed the 3 Supreme Court justices, which allowed a majority to end the constitutional right to an abortion. Before Roe v. Wade was overturned, the Republican-led Texas legislature enacted a 6-week ban. Spectrum News asked Texas Alliance for Life, a group that pushed to pass abortion restrictions in Texas, about what they make of Trump's comments around the Florida proposal to expand abortion access.
You could read between the lines and not really determine what he was trying to say, but he did make it very clear that he opposes that, and we support that and applaud that.
But Trump's views on abortion rights may be dividing conservatives. While Texas Alliance for Life endorsed Trump in 2020, they haven't done so yet this year.
Trump has done a lot for the pro-life community. As we look ahead, we haven't shifted organizationally on the importance that we've placed on protecting life. Neither candidate fully aligns with our views, but while one doesn't align, he is a part of a party platform that advocates for the protection of life.
Part of the criticism Democrats have over Trump shifting the conversation on abortion rights is over his views on in vitro fertilization, or IVF.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women.
The pledge raises questions about Republican backing and how those costs would be covered. In Washington, Reena, Diamante, Capital Tonight.
Let's bring in Seema Mohapatra now to discuss Trump's stance on abortion and IVF. She's a law professor at Southern Methodist University who specializes in health law, including assisted reproduction. Professor Mohapatra, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. First off, how feasible is Trump's statement about the government covering the costs of IVF?
Technically it's feasible if you can get it past, the Senate, the House, and you have kind of consensus on it. In the past, Republicans have voted against this kind of support. So just in terms of if it's politically feasible, probably not. However, if it's technically feasible, it is. It's just kind of in opposition to Republican platforms in the past.
Yeah, and an expensive endeavor, and figuring out how to pay for all of that, of course, is a big task there too.
Exactly. If you think about all the controversy there was for the Affordable Care Act, we're talking about IVF, assisted reproduction, which was not covered under the Affordable Care Act. And we could expect even more controversy, even though it is an important service that, I think politically it makes sense to be covered. It's just that I also think healthcare should be covered, which is not necessarily a value that is supported by all politicians.
Yeah. Trump's never really had a principled position on abortion. How do you think his latest comments and decisions could affect him with voters?
Yeah, so in the last election, he had said that he was going to appoint justices that would overturn Roe versus Wade, which he did. And now in the latest kind of iteration, he's talked about that he is a champion of reproductive rights, which is not really, you can't really see any facts that support that. However, I think the explanation for it is that politically, this is a very controversial issue, and there's more political support for both reproductive rights and abortion and IVF, and he's trying to kind of have his cake and eat it too.
Well, speaking of that, what about Democrats' messaging around abortion? How much should that be a focus for them this election? From your perspective, is it a winning issue for Democrats?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely a winning issue, especially when you look at national polls, state polls, in terms of how popular support for reproductive rights is. I think this is a winning issue, and this is why you see kind of Trump kind of changing his position a little bit on reproductive rights, or at least even if he's being vague about it. And also the fact that reproductive rights, it's really hard to kind of have a line between where you have support for reproductive rights and then support for IVF, because we've seen that since Roe versus Wade was overturned, in many states, the legislation that was going to kind of oppose abortion also would include IVF, because there's lots of embryos created in the IVF process. And as people learn about that, I think there's even more support for reproductive rights in general.
Seema Mohapatra, we're going to have to leave it there. Always a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.